Hi. Hi. Hello. Hi. This is FSP Live, Fridays at 4 through March. I'm the Amelia one. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm here to answer questions about stress and things and the FSP episodes and sing songs and, and really have a good time. Robyn is our mod in the chat. Hi, Robyn. How you doing? Hi. So the first question that I want to talk about, I'm going to talk kind of a lot about it. Um, and that is a question we received about Holodomor that Emily mentioned, which was the genocide of Ukrainians by Stalin. And when Emily mentioned that she had used the word Holodomor, I was like, wait, what? Because I didn't know the word. All I knew was Stalin tried to genocide the Ukrainians. So we got a question about that, like um, an explanation about what Emily is seeing that made her think of this tragedy. So talk about, I want to talk about that and how it applies to us and how it might influence the way that you are managing your stress right now. First thing I want to say is that uh, this is the kind of thing that you couldn't get away with the same way now that you could then. And reason number one is journalism and the internet. Um, Stalin, look, the way that Stalin ruled was after the Bolsheviks took over the Russian government, um, Lenin died, Stalin took over. And the way Stalin made sure that people did not protest against him, and he made sure that everyone around him was a supporter and was going to like follow the policies he laid out, was he straight up just murdered dissenters and anyone who might challenge his authority. Or he exiled them to Siberia, where the life expectancy was pretty short. Exile there was bad. Siberia, the weather's bad. That could kill you. Also, the conditions in the prisons out there, and it was also kind of a forced labor camp. So, like, that's what Stalin's default means of governing was. Like, really um, ruthless and cruel. And that's how he maintained power. And it worked pretty good for a little while. Um, So his way of dealing with the fact that, Ukraine had been independent from the Tsar initially upon the Russian Revolution. And Stalin was like, no, 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 no. We need them back. Why? Because Ukraine has much more fertile soil. It's further south, obviously, than Russia is geographically. So it has really excellent wheat production, grain, rye, barley. It's the breadbasket of the of Europe, basically of Eastern Europe. The Something like 5 times more product per acre could be produced in Ukraine compared to Russia. So it was really important for Stalin to be like, we want that grain for us, and to keep the Ukrainians dependent on being a member of the SSSR, or at least being a Soviet Socialist Republic alongside the USSR. Um, he employed pretty harsh tactics for years and years leading up to the actual Holodomor, which started in 1932. In 1932, in order to keep Ukrainians from resisting and rebelling and thinking of themselves as Ukrainian, he did a bunch of things. He forbid the teaching and use of the Ukrainian language in schools and government, and also like murdered the Ukrainian leaders and replaced them with Russian leaders. And uh, Ukraine in the early 1900s, like Russia in the early 1900s, and still most of Russia at the same time, was still agricultural, was still agrarian, was not industrialized the way that Europe had become industrialized like 50 years, 60 or 70 even years earlier, depending on what you count as the beginning of, the Industrial Revolution. Um, uh, Ukraine and Russia is too big for that. Like too big, too sparsely populated, and they had not been industrialized. So they were still existing as this like a few concentrated cities, but like 80% of the population is still living on farms, is still working the land to feed the people in the cities largely. So it was really easy to target the agricultural society. Specifically, what Stalin did was he required farms to provide a certain quota of grain to the government of the USSR. And those quotas were made intentionally too high, intentionally unachievable. We talk a lot in burnout about the ways that goals for us, for everybody, for women in particular, in ways that we talk about in burnout, but in general, for just like regular middle class, working class people, the goals that we are set to aspire to are unmeetable and unattainable, so that we will drain ourselves dry in a figurative, emotional, and even financial way. This literal goal set by Stalin was meant as a direct punishment against those Ukrainians who are resisting Russian rule. So that if you did not meet your quota, you would be punished. And what would happen is that Stalin would send Russian soldiers, or even just Russian supporters, just regular people, to surround and invade your village, and they would go from house to house, and they would take all of your food and anything you would use to prepare food, and any livestock that you had that could either be used as a food source or be used to help you farm. They would just take everything. Uh, and then in 1933, they issued a new edict that in order to have a passport, your residential address had to be listed as a city. If you lived in a town or a village, which meant that you were probably a farmer, you were not allowed to leave the place where you live. And towns who did not meet their quota were surrounded by troops or by those, Russian supporters who would come and steal everybody's stuff, and they would be literally not allowed to leave. They didn't have any food, and they couldn't go anywhere to escape. Um, and in some cases, whole villages died. In a lot of cases, 50 to 70% of the village died. Across the nation of Ukraine, about a quarter of the population died. That's 30 million people who lived in Ukraine at the time. Up to 10 million people died in 2 years, 18 months a year. 4 million people of starvation, for sure. 7 million people just as a direct result of these policies. Like mothers, this is getting dark, but I promise it'll get light soon. But like just to tell you that this is not a matter of like policy change that could be made or gotten away with in the US. That's how drastic it was. People at the time have told stories about literally just bodies in the street of starved, even children. Mothers would put their children's on trains, just like put the child on the train, goodbye train, hope that when the train got to the city, that someone would feel tenderly toward their child and provide them food because someone in a city might have food. And uh, mm, yeah, it's super terrible. Um, at the time, there were there was some awareness that this was happening, and I mean by people outside of Ukraine. Russia, of course, was denying it, and um, they issued a lot of propaganda that just said, "No, that's not happening," and other countries largely couldn't conceive of the possibility that Russia would be exporting all this grain, uh, at the expense of its own inhabitants. There were also, of course, journalists from other nations who lived in Ukraine. There were, ambassadors or other government officials from other countries living there, and their reports clashed with each other. Famously, there was one reporter for the New York Times who wrote in his articles for the New York Times, "Famine is not happening here. That's anti-Soviet propaganda." But in his own personal correspondence, he said, "Probably like 10 million people dead here." So he knew, and he just lied in his reporting because that's what propaganda is. And the New York Times published it, and he won a Pulitzer and has since been discredited, of course. But I mean, I say of course, but in our perspective now, like, of course. Um, the Holodomor was not recognized as a genocide until the early 2000s, and that was just by a few countries. It was 2018 by the time the US was like, "Oh, that thing in 1932 and 33, that was a genocide that Stalin did." Um, and the officials who got the most, publicity saying this is happening were church officials, from the, Orthodox Church, Greek Orthodox Church, and then into the Catholic Church, spreading the word like, "Christians around the world, you need to know that this is we need, we should be feeding the hungry here. This is famine that is happening." But it wasn't just famine like we think of famine as a naturally occurring thing. Like the Irish potato famine was because the potatoes got a disease, and there was nothing anybody could do to make the potatoes grow. Ukraine was producing more grain than it needed to feed its people. It just wasn't being given to them. They were being forbidden to make food out of what they were growing. Um, these days, this would not go unquestioned like this for so long. I mean, first of all, it was the early 1930s. America was in the Great Depression. Hitler was on the rise in Germany. Like, people were distracted by some very imminent threats. Um, but also we didn't have the, internet where people could be held accountable for, I mean, immediately held accountable and like canceled for lying on Russia's behalf. Um, do we still have Russian shills reporting on the news? Yeah, yeah, we do. But we also have some very widespread understanding that Russian propaganda is a separate issue from the actual reporting of what's going on in Russia. And inside of Russia, Putin has control of the internet to forbid people access to other perspectives and other points of view and limit what they can understand. In the internet, we don't have that. We have mostly a free internet where people can communicate freely about their certain ideas. We do have a growing oligarchy where a very few tech bros are able to kind of filter and alter an algorithm to adjust what is most visible to people. Um, but that's not the kind of total control that existed in the 1930s or even as exists now in places like Russia or China. Um, so what I'm saying is the stuff they pulled back in the 1930s, like inviting celebrity government officials from the UK or Germany to come and like have a tour let me show you. Nothing bad is going on in Ukraine. And they had these like curated visits where they were very well fed because there was plenty of food. They were shown a working farm where the farmers said, "Oh, yeah, everything's fine." And they would write back to their home countries, "Everything's fine." But that's like nowadays, like when Shein invented a bunch of influencers to come to our factory and meet some of our laborers. We're not enslaving Uyghurs. Come meet some of our sewers, and they'll tell you that the conditions here are just fine. And that immediately gets recognized by everybody, mostly, as a publicity stunt and propaganda and lie. Um, so I really don't think this kind of thing could be gotten away with now. Um, so in terms of what this means to us, recognizing that what's going on right now between Russia and Ukraine is just a long extended version of what has gone on between Russia and Ukraine for 100 years is a valuable perspective to have. Um, the comparison between Putin and Stalin is, I think, a very serious and important true thing that we need to keep in mind. That's Putin does have his rivals and like journalists murdered. That has happened. And the world knows about it. It's been reported on. Um, why haven't we stopped him yet? Because we don't want World War III. So here in America, the kinds of things that are happening that sort of freak Emily out are the things like the ways that the tech bros have glommed on to Trump in order to increase the power that they have to shape the narrative of what is allowed on their platforms. Um, that's a scary and bad thing. The ways that Trump is screwing with trade and the economy in ways that immediately benefit the very wealthy at the expense of all of the rest of us. Um, that's another thing that's like a mild, like low grade version of the types of um shenanigans I want to say, but that's clearly the way too fun a word for Stalin. It's the kind of tactics that Stalin used, but like way watered down. Um, and it is the kind of tactics that Putin uses, less watered down. Um, so the question that we got also is, can you please explain what you're seeing? So I hope that explanation drew some parallels for you directly between the actual Holodor and how that I don't think that could actually I don't think that if that kind of thing happened, that the world would stand for it. It wouldn't it couldn't go on like that in the world now. Except that the war is happening and like it's so that's not the kind of thing that's going to happen to us in the US in our time. I think it's too extreme for what you could get away with today. Actually here and now. However, there are definitely certain parallels that are examples of how tactics used by our government now and by Putin's government are sort of watered down versions of what Stalin did. Um, I'm so glad that we have no interest in, monetizing any of these videos because for sure none of this could get monetized because we don't do this to be monetized. Um, we do it because we're trying to put something helpful out to the world. So the question was to explain what you're seeing and maybe understand what you're up against. Um, uh, declutter clothes to start my go bag. Yeah. Should I be laying in 5-pound bags of rice from Costco? All I can do now is worry. So that's from Catherine. Hi, Catherine. Um, all you can do now is worry. is not strictly true. Um, thing one is worry alone is bad for your well-being. Like anxiety, it's just an activated state of fight or flight, sympathetic. You need to be like, and then if you don't do anything with the fight or flight, that's when it gets stuck and it creates all those health problems that we talk about in chapter 1 of burnout. Um, uh, and I know I just laid out this very scary, dark, terrible story that was probably enough to freak a lot of people out. But the fact is that there are things you can do. Um, Almost none of them will make change on a large scale level unless you are an individual who is in a position to create large scale change. And if you are in a position to do that, thank you. Thank you for doing that work. And please know that you are worthy of love and take the time you need to complete the stress response cycle left over from all of the difficulty you are facing. For those of us who cannot create the actual large scale change, the thing to do is to surround ourselves with a bubble of love, with people who care about our well being as much as we care about theirs. Because this sort of fear existed in America before. Like, remember, I'm an old, so some of you may not remember bomb shelter drills. Um, like we had a drill where we got under our desks, which is how we would hide in the event of a nuclear war. That's that's how old I am. Is that when I was in elementary school, we had nuclear bomb tests where we would hide under our desks and practice doing that. Um, and in like the 50s and the 60s and into the 70s and even the 80s, people were building bomb shelters in their backyard so that they, as families and individuals, could be safe and survive a nuclear war. So this kind of like worry and individual, like nuclear family sort of survival is not how humanity thrives. Because I mean, if you have the means to have a nuclear fallout shelter, by all means, build yourself a safe room if that's going to like help you feel comfortable and safe. But when the nuclear strike ends and the fallout ends and you come out of your, lead-lined room, what's the world you're going to be in? Who else is going to be there to share it with you? Who else will have survived and what kind of world will you be able to create with them? The way we survive and create a world that will grow into a better future is by all protecting each other. Um, and because that was so dark, and because woo, I know that it's a lot. I am gonna just like jump right into a song real quick, so that hold on to just balance out. I knew I was gonna have to talk about super dark stuff, so I was like, let me sing the Bubble of Love song because the song itself is soothing, and uh, is of chill enough quality that it could like help de-escalate feelings of holy cow, that was really big and dark. And also because the bubble of love is in fact the solution to um to the to prevent that kind of tragedy from happening again. So here it is. For those reasons, here's the Bubble of Love song. Haven't tuned my ukulele. I'm gonna tune it. No. I'm gonna. Will the ukulele being out of tune cause more stress, or will tuning my ukulele cause stress? Because ukulele tuner. I left my phone in the house because my phone makes my close enough. Okay, that's much better. It was just the C that was really out of tune. Okay. And now the bubble of love. Come on, you. Here we go. I wanna do no, that's C. I'm supposed to start in. I wanna do and be everything that the world has demanded of me. Sometimes I feel I don't deserve love, not until I'm productive enough. That's when I need supplementary help to reinforce my boundary. In my bubble of love, I am enough. In my bubble of love. They're people who care about my well-being as much as I care about theirs. We guard each other from outside messages, showing each other we care. 'Cause I wanna want and like all the goals that the world has set for my role. Sometimes I fear I don't deserve love, not until I'm successful enough. That's when I need supplementary help to mind what gives life meaning. In my bubble of love, I am enough. In my bubble of love. A little soothing-ish ukulele. My nose is so itchy 'cause I ate chicken today. Yeah, so okay, so I wasn't looking at the comments while I was saying all those things. History lesson, yes, on today's agenda because, in order to understand what we're going through now, it's important to understand what has happened before. Oligarchy, yeah, that's a good one. Saying and spelling. Hopefully, if you want the word to the that is the spelling. Thank you, Robyn. There are several sites, internet sites dedicated to it. There's a Holodomor museum. They have an unlisted video on YouTube that is a documentary about it, and there are several. I think from 1981, there's a documentary of that has accounts of survivors talking about their experiences. Even as a child, I was like, hiding under our desk will not save us, but I guess it gives people a sense of control. Yeah. Yeah. Rather than admitting we are screwed. I mean, not for nothing. Having a sense that you can do something is of value. If your body knows that it has the capacity to move you from danger to safety, that will make your experience of living in the world easier, healthier, better for you and the people around you. That is not just, meaningless. That is a thing that will be good for public health, is having a sense of control. And if you want to back that sense of control up with like actions that you're taking, it's caring for your immediate community is making that happen. The basement in the middle of my school was one gigantic bomb shelter. Me too. We had a door in our actually secondary uh it was from 4th to 6th grade. Our school had a sign on a door that was like, "This is the fallout shelter in case of radiation." It was black and yellow, like, warning sign. This is the door you go through. Ugh, and the basement freaked you out. I said I would go into the basement due to World War III. I would stay upstairs. You know, you gotta do what you can. Freddie the Greyhound, laziest of all dogs, just opened up his eyes and perked up his ears, and in gazing in loving fascination at the computer. Is that because of my dulcet COVID influenced voice? I sound more like I'm yodeling than singing. That is that is what's happening. I just sound more like yodeling than singing. But if he loved the song, then I am happy. Can I tell you that when I sing in my house, my dogs leave the room. I used to have dogs who would howl along with me when I was practicing singing at home, and my current dogs really don't like it. I think that my, like, actual healthy singing voice has a lot of overtones because that's what you train to do is to maximize resonance, and, I think my dogs don't enjoy all those overtones. Um, that's what I'm blaming it on. Because when my husband plays the piano, he the dogs go into the room with him and they lay underneath the piano and they love that. But when I sing, they're like, "No." That's okay. I have a whole separate building. That's why we have the barn now if I want to make noises. Yeah, the idea of being locked in a student, absolutely. Yeah, claustrophobia. I think a lot of claustrophobia existed. I think I have a theory because I know a lot of claustrophobics who are boomers. Um, and I do think that there's something to be said for, like, the kind of threat that was being publicized maybe contributed to how many people felt who developed claustrophobia. I do think that's true. Um, I'd like to sing another song that is the song about bridging the gap between who we are and who the world expects us to be. It is the hold on. Opening my file that tells me where all my songs are. Do do. Um, um, I mean, I could just do it from memory. I think I'll do it from memory. Sorry, I can't open the. I can't find the. Is it just the Abyss? Abyss. It should be the first file because it starts with A, but it's not here. Alas, rather than spending time. Thanks, Emily, for the credit. Okay, so this song is about bridging the gap between who we are and who the world expects us to be. And for the Ukrainians of 1932, that was about their grain quota. And that solution was not the solution that I present in this song. But we are presented with unachievable goals, with the idea that we will constantly aspire to conforming to what the expectations are so that we will spend all our money to profit a few broligarchs, as I think Gabrielle said, which is a very good phrase. Okay, here's the song about the chasm between who we are and who the world expects us to be. You could even call that chasm an abyss. Who does the world say that I should be? And what do I do if I don't agree? Rational me says that I am alone. Rational me says that I am enough. Ladies and gentlemen, Sigmund Freud is in charge of my singing today. Rational me says that I am enough. My primate brain says not fitting is rough. Solutions are clear, I should be myself and deal with the world when it puts me through hell. Or easier still is to be what they say. It only requires I give my soul away to the abyss. Abyss. Two opposite goals here ask you to choose. Whatever you pick, there's something to lose. But you're not alone, we're all on this road. And going together is a journey of hope through the abyss. Abyss. That's the Abyss song. I don't know why it's not in my things. New question from Christine. Hi again, Christine. It's good to see you again. I haven't listened to most of the recent pod, so that's totally fine. We're going to talk more about masking and unmasking. Still something, you super struggle with. Same. And we don't talk about masking again in the most recent episode or in the next one that's coming up. The next episode that's coming up is about food, We will make a series of videos of episodes about food, because that is a very big topic, it's complicated and there's a lot to talk about. We will probably talk more about masking, because we're also going to make at least 2 more episodes about autism. I am still working on how to divide the information up into bite-sized chunk. Emily says Ukrainians in 1933 be like, I don't want to watch shoes or humans, but like, what? I think there was a typo in there, Emily. Oh, I don't want to eat shoes or humans. Was there cannibalism? Yep. Was it covered up by the Russian government? Yep. Yeah. Uh, is it too soon? I mean, it's no, yeah. I mean, I was like, how dark can I go with my retelling of this history and creating this context and understanding? I wanted to make it clear that it was as dark as you can possibly get. I mean, it was a genocide. So, yeah, we are not there, and I do not believe that you can get away with that now. I really don't think so. I really think that that there's too much public scrutiny. Like, Putin, look, and here's my evidence for that. Putin hasn't killed nearly as many people as Stalin. He's killed some people, but he hasn't killed nearly as many people as Stalin. Um, so that I think that you couldn't get away with it anymore. I think it would be too obvious, and there would be too much public outcry. And I think that's a good thing. I think the woke mob is a weapon that we can use um to to prevent stuff like this from happening out loud anymore. Um Emily, maybe we should make an episode about when masking is valuable. Uh yeah. Yeah, maybe like more specific detail about when not, pros and cons. Uh yeah. Okay, Kelsey asked if I could ever share the lyrics and chords for some of these songs. Absolutely. Um, I could post the files in a Google Doc, uh, and and put the link in the description. That won't happen this week because there's stuff going on, but eventually, yes, and I will let you know when that happens. Um, Food relevant to me personally from Christine. I resent the fact I have to feed myself daily, and so does my body. I very much feel that. I mean, I ate chicken today. I'm so itchy. I'm so itchy today because I ate chicken. Um, um, I also have histamine issues, allergies, texture. Yeah. Yeah, it's complicated, and there's so much to talk about food, and I also, because I am having uh, continued digestive symptoms from still recovering from COVID. I'm still not eating like, I mean, I'm like, wow, I ate chicken today. It's like the first time I ate a serving of protein in a month. Um, and my histamines are like, I don't know what to do with this. So that's why I'm so very itchy. Making a list of demands for Rich. Thank you, Robyn. Yeah, yeah. I'm also a very amateur ukulele player. So, like, all of the chords are the easiest chords. I basically only ever play, F, C, A, and G, like, occasionally B flat, and I learned to play E so that I could play Dear Theodosia. Here's my very meh performance of how I can get through Dear Theodosia. Dear Theodosia, what to say to you? That's my E chord. That's why I learned the E chord. You have my eyes, you have your mother's name. I don't want to get a copyright strike, so I'm gonna stop now. You're Your cats enjoy the ukulele? That's good to know. My dogs hate my ukulele. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. Oh, there was one other question I was gonna answer besides the holodor. Holodor. Holodomor. Oh my god, it's so hard to pronounce. Um, uh, a question just about, autistic burnout? Hello, I'm a middle-aged, late diagnosed autistic, and I strongly believe that I'm experiencing autistic burnout. Yeah. Will this material still be helpful for me or not applicable due to such different treatment needs? It is still applicable. I made a whole channel called Autistic Burnout where I explain the differences between the content of the book and what would apply to uh, autistic people. There is content in the book Burnout that we put in there because the science said it was true, even though we were like, that doesn't feel true for us. But it's not much. And because we wrote it as undiagnosed autistic people, it's written in a way and we wrote the book for me. We wrote the book for 21-year-old Amelia. So if you are autistic and haven't read the book and are like, is this relevant to me? The answer is yes. Um, there will be some exceptions, but the book doesn't, nothing in the book um, is exactly the right answer for everybody, but everybody will find something that's going to work for them because people vary. And that's a point that we address in the book. Okay. That was the last question. Hello, making your list transfer rich, poor rich. No, not maybe he's rich after all, pun intended. Oh, Robin has a question. Yeah. Rich is fine. Rich is good. Rich is great. Ask a question, Robin. I have a stand for my ukulele that I keep in my place where I keep the stuff I travel with, so that when I travel and I perform with ukulele, I have this foldable travel ukulele stand. Um, I moved it in here so that I can just I don't have to put my ukulele back all the way there. I can just stick it next to me real quick. So that's where I put my ukulele just now. Robin, when I want to relax and address my stress, I have trouble picking from the things and then I get stressed and end up not doing the things. That's perfectionism, my friend. That's exactly what I have to do, exactly the right thing. That's gonna be the most efficient, that's gonna fit in, and I wanna make sure that I get it done so that I know that it works. The good news is anything you do will help a little, and even if it doesn't help the most, you, um, you should I do knit or yoga, read, zone out? I mean, the answer is yes. You should do the thing that you're most likely to actually do is my recommendation, Robin. Do the thing you're gonna do. Um, the doing of the thing is more important than the doing of the right, most perfect thing. This is like the decluttering stuff where oh, I'm too overwhelmed by all the things that could blah blah blah, and you want to do it exactly right and perfectly, and so you don't do anything at all, right? That's perfectionism, and that's a barrier to accomplishing things. So just do the thing you're most likely to do. That's probably not a very helpful or practical answer. Um, does it feel practical or helpful? Does it at least make you feel like, "Oh, I don't have to worry about this?" Christine says she can relate to you. Also, listen to your body. You were right, Emily. Listen to your body is not my first thought when it comes to starting to cough. So listening to my body being like, body says I'm almost done here. Um, thanks, Emily, for adding listen to your body. We speak other languages. I mean, I didn't even know that my body had a language for a very long time. And with that channel, I mean, okay, that's someone was saying oh, good. Christine says the autistic burnout channel helped when you were inpatient. That's awesome. Yeah. Hard to process info when you're unwell. I very much understand that. Being someone who is currently, like, experiencing what a big deal it is to eat chicken. Emily, I didn't realize I had a body that told me stuff until I listened to 2020. Um, for me, it was, like, 2011 when when I when I burned out, when I was hospitalized for stress-induced illness during my doctor program, and Emily had to be like gave me a book, and it said emotions are held in your body, and I was like, "What? No." And it made me sob, like, hard, ugly cry because I was like, "If that's true, then my whole life of emotions are in my body, and if I start listening to them now, what's gonna happen to me?" And what happened was um, it was like purging a lot of old leftover. Oh, it was hard and terrible. And then I got better at it. And now I'm better at, like, preventing it so that it doesn't build up like that anymore. Knowing is half the battle. When will someone be like, "Me too, Emily. I can't stop knowing what my body wants." Let the record show more people are like Amelia than Emily. Uh, we did not know that when we started writing Burnout for sure. Okay. The cough is getting worse. My throat is getting worse. My voice is getting tired. And the ju- just Robin, just the youngest and gifted talent style. Oh yeah, yeah. Samesies, Robin. Okay. Um, my body is saying you're done, Amelia. So I'm gonna be done. Thanks so much for hanging out. It's so nice to be a person in the world with y'all. Um, I'm so sorry that there was so much darkness, but I hope that happy songs and chat with people who are like-minded helps you to remember that the cure for burnout is all of us caring for each other. And this is me trying to do some of that. Um, so until then, and I'll talk to you next week. And until then, keep doing the nice recovery things. Bye. 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 Goodbye. Bye. Bye.